everything.
A couple of quick housekeeping things for our parents and those who are attending. First off, we're really glad to have everyone here. So thank you for joining us on a Sunday afternoon and hope that you can get your questions answered you might have about encampment. My goal is to have the chat open in case you have some questions. So maybe toward the end, we can answer, do a quick Q&A. And if you want to pre-post your questions, that might help us to get through that part a little bit faster. I doubt that the microphones are going to work, or at least not well, because if everybody goes off mute at the exact same time, that could be difficult. So if we could start with getting your questions in the chat, and then if I could just get one or two or however many people to put something in the chat now so we can test it, then that would make this a little bit easier just to make sure that everything is working. And as you can see, we have got AI helping us with the transcription. Thank you for the test. It's working. We have the AI going so we can have notes from this, and then we are recording this so we can share it with everyone later. And so just appreciate you being here, and I'm going to pass this over now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, this is Senior Master Sergeant Jackson with South Carolina Wing. We're going to, obviously, this is our meeting, our parents' meeting, like I like to call a town hall meeting for the encampment, which is going to be initiated on the 19th of July and will end with graduation on the 26th of July. Before I get started, though, of course, I'm the sergeant in charge, but the officer in charge is Colonel Peterson. So I know we have some connectivity issues with some pretty adverse weather down in South Carolina. I'm up north here on vacation. So Colonel Peterson, are you able to communicate with us and talk to the parents?
I am. If you can hear me. Okay, good.
We can, sir.
The storms passed through about 10 minutes ago. It stopped raining, and now it's a beautiful blue sky. So things worked out pretty well for us. Hopefully, we're just as lucky with encampment and the weather. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking your time on a Sunday to come and join us. I think we've got a great ensemble of officers and enlisted personnel who are supporting the encampment from the adult member perspective. As well as we are working through our staff applications. The application deadline was the end of May. We hope to have our executive staff selected today and start working through the cadet staff selections so that probably within the next week, maybe 10 days, everybody will be notified and we'll be moving forward. But we'll get to the nitty gritty here in a little bit. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for being here and look forward to a great encampment. So hope to see you guys here in about 7 weeks. Thank you, Senior.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to break this into 3 parts. And as Lieutenant Colonel Peace had identified, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I actually am abbreviating things a bit. I just want to hit the high points, the areas that you are going to be concerned with. And then we wanted to afford a larger patch of time at the end for questions and answer, because I feel that part's beneficial to everyone, right? I mean, those are going to be the parents asking those questions nobody wants to ask, but we all want to know the answers to. So that'll be the end portion of this and probably the majority of this. So let's talk about those 3 parts. I'm going to talk first off about the encampment week, which is going to start on July 19th and end on July 26th, 8 consecutive days, right? And then we're going to talk about the packing list, because that is a critical piece. I think the parents can actually do a lot to support their cadets with. And then we're going to talk about graduation, okay? And then at any point, if something crops up where you have a concern or a question, please put it in the chat so we make sure that we address this at the end of the presentation, okay? Thank you. Let's start off, of course, with the week. You're possibly going to be dropping off your cadet on the morning of Saturday, the 19th of July, 9 o'clock. And of course, the sooner the better, right? Don't try to show up any later, or try not to show up any later than 9 o'clock if you can avoid it. Couple of things, though, about showing up. You're driving on a military base, okay? And you probably need to know some of these issues before you get on base. Likewise, if you're not dropping off your cadet on the 19th of July, you might be attending graduation. So you're going to also need to know these rules of the road. Or possibly, and we don't want this to happen, something might happen during the week where you have to come on base to be or see your cadet or something. You're going to have to know how to access the installation at that point. So please be aware of how to do this. We don't want you to get in trouble or try to confuse the process. Essentially, make sure you and your cadet do the waiver that we provided. That gives you access to the base. Likewise, the gate guards, the people that you'll be coming on the base with, which is gate number 2, they're going to want to see a real ID. Okay, that's where we're going right now, even with air travel. Okay, that's usually your driver's license with a yellow 5-pointed star on it. Okay, so make sure you have a real ID. When you get on base, adhere to the speed limit. You're under the charge or responsibility of military police, and they don't play. Okay, so I advise you just adhere to the road rules as best as humanly possible. 2 things, or actually let's say 3 things that you probably need to be aware of. The first one is if you drive by any groups of soldiers, trainees, you need to reduce your speed to 10 miles an hour. Okay, that's before you get to that group of trainees, and you can proceed with your speed afterwards. The second thing is do not have your music too loud. Third thing is to basically, every time you have your windshield wipers on, you have to have your headlights on. For example, let's say it's misting that morning, you put your windshield wipers on, regardless of how light it is that day, you also have to have your headlights on. And basically any other of the rules that you would adhere to in South Carolina as far as trafficking rules. Something you need to be aware of as well, I'm going to give you some comprehensive directions to where our locations are at. The names to some of the streets on base have changed, okay? Now, if you're like me and I go someplace new with GPS, I'm going to rely on my GPS. The problem in that scenario can be that your GPS is probably going to give you the old names of the roads. Don't worry about that. I'll give you the updated names so you can interpolate to your GPS system, right? I'll give you a classic example. There are 2 roads that used to be called Forest Road and Dixie Road. They're now both called Hershon Road. Hershon Road. But we'll make sure you get that in the newsletter, okay? So you get on base, and of course, you're going to drop off your cadet. This also applies for people who are having other people drop their cadet off. For example, you may be friends of a family that has a cadet being dropped on base. You might utilize that family to drop your cadet on base, right? Likewise, some of the squadrons use a van and they get all the cadets from that squadron on base, okay? That's great too. Regardless of what happens there, we are going to check haircuts, okay? I need you to understand, and we usually don't run into this problem except for in very few cases, but the privilege of wearing an Air Force uniform is that we have to have a military haircut, okay? I'm not saying a buzz cut at all right? I'm just saying hair off the ears, right? And not combed off the ears, but literally trimmed off the ears, tapered in the back, side brows not extending beyond the opening of the ear, bangs should not go to your eyebrows, and hair length should not be more than 4 inches in any place. And that's for males, of course. Females have it a little easier. They can wear their hair up. And of course, they can wear ponytails as long as they don't exceed the shoulder blades at their back. Now, we will publish all this information so you know what the standard is. What happens if a cadet's grooming standards are not to standards, okay? Understand now, we're representing the United States Air Force. We're on a U.S. Army base. It's an insult to the Air Force uniform to be wearing the incorrect haircut. So we're going to have to send you and that cadet down to a barbershop to make sure that the hair is cut to standards. The problem can be where if you're having somebody else drop your cadet off, they're going to be stuck with that responsibility. So I strongly recommend just make sure that the hair is to standard before they arrive, and no issues there at all. Another thing too is hair color. If it's dyed, it can, as long as it's a natural color, we're okay with that. That's blonde, brunette, or redhead, or auburn, right? Not yellow, purple, green, or fire engine red, all right? So just make sure that the hair is to appropriate standards when it comes to that. All right, let me get beyond that one now. So you dropped your cadet off. If you're the one to drop your cadet off, great. If you have questions and answers questions for us, we're there to answer them for you. We want to make sure that you walk away with a good feeling about where you left your cadet at. If your cadet is being dropped off by somebody else, your cadet will be required to contact you at home to ensure that he or she got there safely. Okay. And hey, that's our responsibility to make sure that your cadet's safe at all times. After the cadet gets dropped off, we go through a search. All right. We're going to check through their gear and equipment. We do that for two specific reasons. Okay. We're looking for contraband, and we're looking to make sure that they brought everything they're supposed to bring. So let's talk about the first one, contraband. Contraband, which I'm going to provide a list for you, is anything like tobacco, prescription or drugs that are not prescribed, right? Vapes, inappropriate material as far as reading material and pictures and such, weapons of any type, and that includes a knife. There's no reason for your cadet to bring a knife with them to encampment. Obviously, we're not going to take away their fingernail clippers, right? But so essentially, if we do take or commandeer these items, we're going to put them in a Ziploc bag. Your cadet will put their name on it, and we'll give them their items back at the end. Let's bring up cell phones real quick. If they want to have a cell phone, have them bring a cell phone, right? We are going to secure that at the beginning, though, and they're going to get that at the end, okay? So let me just check a couple of things here. So just make sure that, we're making sure that they don't have anything they're not supposed to have with them. So let's talk about the other part. We're making sure that they brought everything they're required to bring with them. We sent out a very comprehensive packing list. Obviously, optional items are exactly that, optional. They're not required to bring those particular items. Essentially, we're going to look through that packing list, and we're going to make sure that they have everything they're supposed to bring. If you noticed, on that packing list form was a place for the parent to sign their name on the bottom. We're doing that is so the parent and the cadet can have a contractual obligation to make sure that they bring the right stuff. For example, if your cadet doesn't really inform you that they're required to bring certain things, you can't be responsible for that, right? But at least in this particular case, making you a part of the solution here, the cadet will bring the right items. And we're not just doing that just because we're roll follows, which we are. We're doing that just because that your cadet is going to require all those items on that list, and we don't want to see them shorthanded. It's important to understand also our access to washers and dryers will be limited if at all possible. So the intent is to have enough clothes available for the duration of the week. Now, you need to know this as well. Your cadet is going to belong to a flight. That is a subgroup of anywhere from 10 to 20 cadets. Essentially, that is their flight. And over that flight will be an adult leader. Okay, so there'll be an adult overseeing your cadet amongst the other cadets as well. If laundry happens, then that adult leader will be doing the laundry, not your cadet, that adult leader. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that the adult leader is not there just to supervise, but also provide support. Okay, so we got through that. That's the first day. That's probably going to be the most challenging day. And I'm just giving you a heads up. The week's going to start probably on a more rigid, solid military style, right? We're trying to develop a source of self-discipline within your cadet and group discipline within their flight, all right? And as we see progress during the week, rewards are going to come their way, right? For example, they might end up going to a museum as the week goes on. They might end up getting a flight in a C-17. They might do a lot of things, okay? They don't need to know that right now, but as they succeed during the week, they'll be rewarded with these activities. Now, there are 4 things that they're going to get a big helping of during the week. First one is aerospace, all right? They're going to know a lot about aviation. They're going to have public speakers that have been in military aircrafts in combat. They're going to have people who are going to approach it from the scientific angle. They're going to talk about aviation, right? The second thing is leadership. Okay, we're going to instill and teach them leadership, not in a lecture format always, but sort of interactive projects as well, all right? Then we have physical fitness training. And I'm not just saying recess, right? We're going to teach them how to warm up, how to exercise properly, and how to cool down. Anybody here who's ever been a part of a serious exercise program knows there's a right way and a wrong way to exercise. And that's what we're trying to embrace with this right now. The fourth thing is character development training. We want to develop within them the maturity of ethics, morality, those adult skill sets they're going to need later on in life. For example, the second day, which is Sunday, the 20th of July, there'll be an opportunity to go to a religious service if your cadet so chooses. However, for the cadets that say, I don't want to attend those religious services, we're going to bring them into ethical training at the same time. So it's not like you can get out of church and just hang out, right? You're going to get some level of ethical and moral training on top of all that. So the week goes on, it gets progressively easier as they show their ability to cope and manage the program, right? And I will cover graduation in the end. At this point, though, I want to take some time out to talk about the packing list. That's one of the more crucial things. All right, the packing list. I strongly recommend that there is a laundry bag, excuse me. A laundry bag is identified as an item that they need to bring with them. My recommendation strongly is a mesh laundry bag. Why? Because if the clothing is soiled or wet, you want them to be able to breathe, right? Secondly, if the opportunity comes up to do laundry as a senior member, and I've done this 2 years in a row watching over a flight, it is easier to drop a mesh bag into a washing machine and then a dryer machine and give it to the cadet, because then all their personal stuff will be together. My issue in previous years was people would not use mesh bags, so I was stuck dumping all the stuff into one particular washer, obviously breaking it down to wash sides. But the cadets don't claim their own equipment back or gear back. It just becomes this confusing process in the end because everybody's stuff's mixed into everybody's stuff. To that point as well, just make sure your cadet has their name in all their clothing, all right? Obviously, when it comes to the fatigue top and bottom, what we call ABUs, or the light blue Air Force shirt and dark blue trousers, don't write them in indelible marker where it's going to bleed through the pattern and actually expose the name, right? Do it on a tag on the inside or a pocket on the inside or something like that. So whenever possible, make sure that their clothing's identified so that they make sure they get it back. And if at all possible, use a mesh bag. T-shirts, they're going to need 8 T-shirts to wear in their uniforms and 4 T-shirts for physical fitness training. So that's 14, right? The physical fitness training T-shirts can be tan or gray. I'm just going to say it's a lot easier for your cadet if they keep them tan. That way they just bring 10 tan T-shirts with them. Make sure they have no writing on the T-shirts, no logos, nothing on the T-shirts whatsoever. Okay, they have to be blank tan T-shirts. And the black athletic shorts for running, we need them to be about to the top edges of the kneecaps. Essentially, we tell our cadets when you're wearing your black PT shorts, if you have your hands by your side, your fingertips should be at the hem, or the hem should be lower than the fingertip. We don't like short shorts. We have a moral standards up here when it comes to these things. We're in a transgender group population, all right? So it's not fair. If people are wearing short shorts, it's inappropriate. Combat boots, they need to be 8 inches high. I say this for a specific reason. You can go to Walmart and buy some pretty inexpensive Interceptor combat boots for like $35. Same boots you get off of Vanguard, all right? Same ones. It's just that cheaper. However, in saying that, some of those boots are only 6 or 4 inches high. The problem with a boot that's about as high as a high top sneaker is your cadets' trousers are going to constantly pull out of the tops of the boots. Now, as you've seen in the military, we stuff our pant legs into our boot tops, and it's called bloused, right? They need to walk around with bloused boots. If the boot's too short, they're going to spend half their time stopping and trying to stuff their pant legs into boot tops that don't exist. So please keep the boots that are out. And I'm saying this stuff because of my own personal experiences, all right? If they're going to have boots, just make sure they're 8 inches high. And guess what? If they need a new pair of boots before encampment, I would be buying them now sooner than later and try to break them in, because showing up with new boots at encampment is going to be hard because they're going to be end up breaking in those boots at encampment. They shouldn't, that's going to cause more problems. I'm going to provide a list, or excuse me, not a list, but a video that's going to talk more about all this equipment that they need to bring with them. And I'm going to get into more of the details of what I've been talking about today. There is a social event on the Friday before graduation, the 25th of July. They're going to have an option of wearing the Class A uniform, which is basically the light blue shirt with the dark blue jacket, tie, and overcoat or jacket rather, or the Class B uniform, which is just basically the pale blue shirt, short sleeve, white t-shirt, and dark blue Air Force Issue trousers with black shoes. Or the third option for females is gowns. They can wear a gown to the social event on Friday. I know that they like to do that. The one thing I will say about the gowns, they need to be appropriate, okay? There should not be, keep them very conservative, essentially, all right? We're in a mixed population, and it's just ethically better for everybody that we adhere to that standard. So graduation real quick. Hopefully I already covered the packing list, and please ask any questions about the packing list. That should be one of the bigger topics that we're discussing today. Graduation is going to be at Hilton Field. The nice thing about that is when you go through the front gate, you just follow this blue line that will send you right to the graduation field. It's got a Coliseum style bleachers. It's a beautiful parade field is what we call them in the Army, to see a graduation, what we call pass review. So when you arrive there, and we'll designate the time at a later point, which will be in the afternoon of the 26th, after graduation, your cadet will have to out-process first, not just go straight home. And then after the out-processing, they'll be released to you, and you can go home, or to whomever you've designated, all right? So that is pretty much it in a 20-minute encapsulation. Let's go to the questions. And if for my staff members, if I neglected to address anything, please identify it now. Go ahead, ma'am.
Senior Master Sergeant Jackson, you did not neglect anything. I just want to reassure parents that on this Thursday's newsletter, we are going to have an attachment with a graphic. I know that the hair regulations can be really confusing. Who in the world even knows what 2 inches in bulk really means? So we have a really helpful graphic. I really think the most important part for male cadet hair is, as you said, have the fade, the tapered side and back. Don't let it touch the ears. Don't let it touch the eyebrows. That truly is the most important part. The rest can mostly be handled with hair gel. That 2 inches can be a big deal. And with females, the hair is pretty easily resolved, as long as it's not dyed, by putting it into a bun if needed. So there's a lot we can do there, but we are going to put a graphic in this Thursday's newsletter. Now, I know not all parents get the newsletter unless you are already a member of Civil Air Patrol. So we have asked the squadron commanders to forward you the newsletter that we send out every week about encampment. If you're not getting them, please reach out to your cadet squadron commander and say, can you please forward me the newsletters that you're getting from the wing public affairs officer? And then they can forward that to parents. If you're not getting it, it just means the squadron commander doesn't realize that your email's not automatically on the wing distro list. So they're not trying to keep it from you. They just don't know. And you are more than welcome to ask for it. And then the other reason I think you talked about cell phones, one extra thing I wanted to add about cell phones is not only do we want to make sure that cadets are engaged and not worrying about things they don't need to be worrying about the week of encampment, right? They don't need to be distracted by social media. We could all use a social media and technology detox anyway, but it's also for privacy. So we want to make sure that as everybody is sharing, those bunks and everyone's in the restrooms and, they're showering, they're staying overnight, they're sleeping in the same areas, cadets with cadets in the same gender. We just want to verify and be absolutely sure that no pictures are taken that should not be taken and shared. So that is another reason that we say you don't need your cell phones. You might need it when you get there to call your parents initially, but you don't need a camera. You don't need to worry about that. We're going to have a public affairs team that is going to capture thousands of photos. And then we're going to share those with you. And in future newsletters and on the website, we're going to show you exactly where you can get every single photo of the week so that you can see your cadet and you can follow along and make sure that your cadet is safe and see their smiling faces. So we'll have a big public affairs team there to make sure that you can see all that throughout the week, and your cadet will see them at the end of the week. I think that's all for me.
Hey, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate all that. I'm going to knock out the questions as I see them. So somebody asked if they don't have the real ID card, is a passport adequate? I'm going to have to research that one. Okay. Obviously, I believe these days, if you have a license, so most licenses are considered real ID cards. So you may want to look at that first, but I will look for the answer for that. Excellent question to the retiree. I retired too from the military. So no, if you have access to military installation because your ID card, it shouldn't be a problem. Just make sure if there's another adult in that car with you, they have the ID as well. All right. Somebody asked if there's squadron's vans going up there. That's a question you need to probably talk to your squadron about. We don't have oversight of that one. Okay, a lot more dialogue on that one. Okay, so
Senior Jackson, would it be helpful if I read the questions for
yeah,
you?
that'd be very helpful, ma'am.
No problem. I
Thanks.
will do that. I'm going to read through these. And so you're currently at the one that says, Michael asked black in color or what the Air Force wears. And I've got to be honest, I'm not sure if he's talking about shirts or socks. I don't remember where that one came in.
Black in color or what the Air Force. So that, no, well, if we're talking about the PT uniform, the Army is a lot more liberal with their physical fitness training uniform. Like anybody can wear it in any combination. Okay. The Air Force is very stringent about their Air Force uniform, physical fitness uniform. So I would not wear anything Air Force physical fitness just because that's an item that the Air Force is very serious about. It has to have all components and it has to be correct. Okay. Uh,
Sergeant Jackson,
yeah.
the question related to boots.
Oh,
What's
thank
that now?
you. It was
The
about their
question's what?
shoes, their boots, their combat boots.
Oh, okay. Yeah, black in color. I'm sorry. The combat boots. I know the Air Force has these green combat boots and sometimes tan or black combat boots. There's a reason for that though. Although the Civil Air Patrol has the privilege of wearing the Air Force uniform, we have to have certain distinctions. And one of the distinctions we have to have that's different than the Air Force is our black boots. That sets us apart. It's a good question, though. Thank you.
Yep, and the new update, if I can add, it
Please.
used to be just the leather boots where you had to shine the front, you had to get a real shiny mirrored tip. And the new uniform regulation now says you can wear suede black boots. So I mean, it might be ridiculous, but I personally might go buy a pair of the suede black boots so I don't have to shine them anymore. But that is a new option. So just so everyone knows, plus mine are too low, so mine come out of the boot bands quite a bit. The next question is from Wendy, and she says, "Do they have to have ankle socks, or are crew socks okay?"
So we talked about this. Has been a hot topic, by the way. Thank you, Wendy. Obviously, with combat boots, on their combat boots, they need to be above the height of the boot. Okay, we have that problem all the time. Cadets wear ankle socks with combat boots. That's a recipe for blisters. Okay, so if they're going to have socks, they need to be above the tops of the boots. However, if we're talking about physical fitness training socks, yeah, they can be basically a crew. If crews are ankle socks or crew socks are fine. In either case, with that, and I was a stickler for them being white, but we're kind of loosening up on that one. I guess it's not a popular thing anymore. So if the ankle socks are earth tone green or black or whatever, right, that's fine as far as we're concerned.
And then Danielle says, can or should they bring money for snacks or vending machines?
I believe they should. We'll get back to you on that. There was at one point we would like cadets to have $20 on them in case they needed anything. There are not going to be too many opportunities for snacks and such. I guess, you know what, I'm going to write that down. That's a really good question. We're going to put that out in the newsletter if you don't mind, Danielle. We just want to be able to come up with the right decision for you.
All right. And then Josh asked, what time is graduation and how long will it last?
The graduation time has adjusted. At one point, it was at 1 o'clock, and we were going to push it out a little further. We're going to come back to you. It'll be closer towards the dinner meal, and it's not going to be that long. I recommend showing up a half hour or 15 minutes early, sit in the bleachers, and it's about 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay. And then Michael says graduation is at Class B uniform. That's a two-part question.
Please.
Let's answer that for cadets. And then also a separate question from Philippe is, what is the dress code for adult members in CAP who are attending graduation? So cadet and adult members, what is the uniform?
Good question, actually. So cadets, obviously, if you're obviously in formation, it'll be the Class B uniform. Attending formation, I strongly recommend stick with the Class B uniform, should wear the uniform. That would be the uniform of the day for cadets attending and participating in graduation. Senior members, same thing, right? They should be wearing the Air Force version of the Class B uniform or the Class B version of the corporate uniform. And of course, the corporate variant is the white short sleeve shirt, open at the throat. You can have a tie if you want. Obviously, gray slacks, black belt, black shoes. So that's, and no headgear required. Of course, there is headgear required for the Air Force variant.
Okay, and then Josh is asking, is the updated packing list available now?
Yes,
It's not on the
yes.
website yet. So
Okay.
we'll get that on there. In fact, I can get that on there this weekend if it is ready.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, that's excellent, ma'am. Yeah. And we labored over that packing list, so it's going to be a little bit different than the previous years. Thanks. Good question.
All right. So Josh, I will commit to getting that done by the end of this evening, and you should be able to see it tomorrow morning. And then that's all that's in the chat for now. If anybody wants to drop in anything else, we got more. Okay, hold on, we have more coming in now. Great. What are the rules for cadets' facial hair? Are mustaches allowed, or do they need to be clean shaven?
Okay, mustaches, whatever 39-1 says, but I believe cadets are authorized mustaches, but they have to meet military standards. So they can't extend beyond the edge of the lips. They can't go over the edge of the lips. Please, if you have a mustache or want to sustain or maintain a mustache during encampment, just make sure you meet that regulation. We're not going to give you a hard time.
And do cadets need pillow sheets?
Yes, I would say cadets do need pillow sheets. I believe we also put that on the pack list. If we had, we will add to it. So yeah, a pillow sheet over the pillow. Absolutely.
Okay, and if there's a packing list already in the registration or registration zone or the acceptance email, is that packing list correct? The ones parents already received?
I think it is. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but if it's the one we created, yes, it is correct. I'll tell you right now, if it's the correct list, it will have a diagram on the second page that shows what a haircut should be. It'll also have on the second page the contraband items that cadets are not to bring to encampment. And finally, on the bottom of the second page, it has a place for the parents to sign the packing list. And we will be looking at those signed packing lists when the parents drop off their cadets. And likewise, if somebody else is dropping off your cadet as a parent, just make sure that your cadet has your signature on the bottom of their packing list.
We have
Good question.
some really, really great questions. I'm
Yeah,
so
really.
glad parents are asking. And this one in particular too. Let's go through the rules about the sleeping arrangement. So we have questions about adult members
Mm,
and cadets, males versus females. What's the split? So if you could walk through the split for sleeping arrangements for parents.
that, as a parent, is a question you should ask. Thank you. That's a good question. So, males are in male barracks, females are in female barracks. Okay, there is no mixing. Um, Now, let's say that we have a flight of 10 cadets, and 4 of those are females, and 6 of those are males. Well, that still is the same thing. Those 4 female cadets will be in the female barracks, and they'll be overseen by an adult female as well. There will be adults in the barracks, right? Adult males in the male barracks, adult females in the female barracks. It'll be on a limited basis. For example, we really not try, we enforce your cadet privacy. For example, when it comes to showers, the male adult or female adult will not take showers at the same time that the cadets are taking their showers. There's going to be designated times, and so of course the adult will take theirs at their designated time, and of course the cadets are not allowed into the shower at that time. We're going to have a private changing space in each of the areas. That way, if somebody wants to change, not in the open, they're going to have this designated space. Cadets, when they're not in their actual duty uniform, will be in their PT uniform, shorts and their shirt. They will not walk around shirtless in the barracks. They're not going to show the midriff off in the barracks. They're going to basically be wearing shorts and a t-shirt. The idea is they walk with their shorts and their t-shirt to the showers. They change in the shower to their birthday suit, take a shower, dry off, and change back into their t-shirt and shorts. We really, really reinforce cadets not being naked before one another, even if it's the same gender.
And what about parents who,
Please.
or cadets who want to wear a swimsuit in the shower just to be extra, because some people
Oh,
feel more comfortable that way.
No problem, no problem. And that's a good question, by the way, because all our showers have curtains on the front of them. So if your cadet or the cadet wants to actually wear the bathing suit, fine. If they don't, they do have a level of privacy, but if they want redundancy, is fine by me too. If they want to wear the bathing suit and take a shower, that's fine.
Okay. And what about ties for cadets for the graduation ceremony? Or is that required?
No, it is not required. It will be the Class B uniform, which will be the short sleeve shirt, white t-shirt, dark blue trousers. Of course, it's all Air Force issue, right? And shoes. Shirts will be open at the throat. And of course, there are flight caps, which are the blue, what we used to call in the Army garrison caps.
For drop off, when they initially bring their cadet to encampment, where is the drop off point on base? And also, we'll get a map on the website as well.
So yes, and that's a piece that we're working right now. Give you a mind behind the strategy. So the intent is to have your cadet to graduate at Hinton Field. I did neglect to say something in my brief, though. Let's say that we have rain that day. I am going to try to secure the base theater. That way, graduation can be indoors at the base theater instead of the field based off of weather. So, our want is to have your cadet stuff all by Hinton Field. So, once they graduate at the same location, we can sign them out. We can give you their personal bags, all right? The other option, which we've done all the way up to this point, is that after you graduate on Hilton Field, your cadet is transported back to the barracks, and then at the barracks, we sign them out and they get their luggage. It's a logistical issue for us because we have to move all their personal gear to Hilton Field, and that can be very labor intense. And we don't have a lot of time day of graduation because we're cleaning barracks. So we're trying to work on it. Believe me, if the system's easy for you, it's easy for us, right? The faster we get this done after graduation, the better off we are. So trust us. We're trying to work on a system that's going to facilitate to efficiently accelerate you departing, us departing. I guess I'm saying I don't have an exact answer right now, but you know my options A and B that I'm working with.
And Senior Jackson, what about day one, day one drop off when they drop their cadet with us on the first day?
Sure. Drop off at 9 o'clock at the designated place. If it's the parent dropping off, we'll do questions and answer for the parents. And if it's somebody else dropping the cadet off, then we're going to make sure that the cadet contacts their parents to make sure that they know they got there safely. And of course, we covered this at the beginning. If the haircuts are not the standard, we're going to send them to a barber shop on base to have their haircut. No, we're not going to actually transport them. Whomever they come with is going to have to transport them to a barber shop and find the money and get the haircut.
And then we will again put maps for the location of drop off on the website as well as graduation.
Right.
And pickup. Okay. Let's talk about packing all of this gear. So there's duffel bags, there's the Army kind of duffel bags also, and then there's suitcases. Is there a preference?
Okay. I mean, obviously your preference. Okay, me, no, I've been here before in my life. There's something called an A bag. It's a duffel bag. Duffel bag will get everything there. But you know, it's always a running joke with the duffel bag is the toothpaste is on the bottom and it bursts. An A bag, we'll send out what an A bag is. It's going to cost the same thing. It's also a military bag. It's got double-handed zipper top. It's a lot. You can pack that thing to the gills. But yeah, duffel bag size are larger. You know, it's going to take a lot of space. We're talking about 50 plus pounds of stuff.
So suitcases are allowed then, even with the wheels. Okay, what on the A bags, is that going to make it difficult to do the bag check?
The A bags are easier to do the bag check than the duffel bags are harder because the duffel bag, you pretty much got to dump all the contents out. A bag, you can just open the face of it up and you can access everything with your hands. Suitcases would be easy that way. And that's another thing too, ma'am, you kind of brought up there. If that equipment, that's 50 plus pounds of stuff. You may want to consider if your cadet is going to have a hard time hauling 50-pound bag of anything, they may want something like a wheeled luggage bag of some type.
Do you recommend the Class Bs be in a separate carry-on type thing, or so they don't get wrinkled?
Yeah, garment bag if at all possible. And it doesn't have to be a garment bag, right? I mean, if you just have it, if the uniform's on a hanger and you put I don't know, a plastic garbage bag, plastic garbage bag over it, but that's fine too. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money for this thing. But yes, I do agree that the Class B uniform or indoor Class A uniform and gown, of course, should possibly be in a garment bag or a field expedient version of a garment bag.
Yep, so that's a great point. So if females choose to wear a gown for the, I think it's Friday evening for the banquet the night before graduation, right? That's one formal outfit. They still need their Class Bs for graduation the next day, correct?
Cool. That's it. That's
Yep.
exactly
Okay.
it.
Okay, what about prescriptions? If you could talk about cadets who have prescriptions.
Okay, so there is a form, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but there's the cadet, as long as the cadet's prescription is on the form, and we will actually tell you the designated form. It's a Civil Air Patrol form, but we'll provide it to you, all right? Or what the form number is so that your cadet can actually identify that. Are any of my staff members aware specifically of that form by chance?
I'm looking it up right now. It also, Registration Zone now has CAP Health. And if I recall correctly, you can't even sign up for encampment if you haven't finished filling out. That's what I was looking for. Filling out the CAP Health portion, which has the medication and any other medical needs in that as well. I don't think you can even apply now without that.
Excellent. We'll get that to you.
And then how, if I recall correctly, there is a medical professional who actually brings them in for their prescription, right? They don't keep that in their bunk. I'm not totally sure because that's not my area.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And that's something that keeps coming up at this juncture. We secure the medication and we make sure that they receive it every day. And this is a good point that you sort of hit on, ma'am. we're going to have 2 qualified doctors on staff. You're going to have an ER nurse on staff, right? Each of your squadrons, the squadrons are over flights, right? There's about 3 or 4 flights in a squadron. Each of your squadron commanders has a medical background. So, and we have floating medical people as well. So there's going to be a lot of medical coverage, and we're kind of happy about that.
Okay. And then, I think that would be the right person, and we can send it out in a future newsletter who can answer, what about life-saving urgent medications like an EpiPen? Do they carry that in their pocket?
Yes, they're definitely going to do that. There's been some talk that we want to designate those people. I know in the Army, when people are going through basic training, if let's say they're allergic to bees, they may wear a yellow tag, on them to identify that, just so during that kind of situation, we can actually respond to it immediately. However, we're talking about that because we're trying to find a way of doing that, and also ensuring that your cadet has their privacy.
Okay. And then the form for parents, just so you know, it's called CAP F-160. If you want to Google that and start looking at that and what is needed on there. The next question is, we already talked about pajama regulations. So it's their PT clothes, their clean PT clothes. And then, do cadets need a reflective belt?
Okay, that's a good. No, they don't need a reflective. I'm laughing because the Army loves and all the services love the reflective belts. That is not going to be. Now, if you want your cadet to have a reflective belt, yes, go ahead. But the reality is they're going to be in formation. If we cross the street at any time, they will be what we call road guards. These are cadets that wear these reflective bibs, I'll say. It's not just a belt, and they make sure that the traffic is stopped in place as your cadet safely cross the streets. So, and they won't be running in the street at all. They'll be running around a class that's in a track rather that's enclosed.
Okay. I had a feeling this question was going to come up. If they are taking any kind of O flight, like a C-17, do parents get notified in advance, or are they just going to find out at the end of encampment?
It's a good question. Well, ma'am, you're going to be doing a
Yeah.
stream during the
Yeah.
during the encampment week,
Yeah. So
or
here's how it works from our perspective in public affairs. Here's how you're going to find out all the good news, right? No phone call to a parent is good news. If you get a phone call, as I know from last year personally, if you get a phone call, something has happened. It's not always terrible, but no phone call means everything is great. Where you're going to get all the good news from our perspective is that we are going to be posting every single day on the official photo repository, and that is photos.cap.gov. There are specific links that I will share on the South Carolina Wing Facebook and Instagram. So go ahead and go to South Carolina Civil Air Patrol, South Carolina Wing, Facebook and Instagram. Start following us now, and you are going to see everything on there. Also, in the next week, I'm going to create an event specific for encampment. So you're going to want to click attending the events, even though you're not coming there in person for the whole week, because then you will see every single thing that we post in the event. You might miss something on the primary Facebook page, but if you say you're attending the event, Facebook will notify you of every single post. So you will see everything. We're going to post throughout the day, but at least twice a day, we're going to upload usually hundreds of photos. Only the photos that are in regs, which is why we're asking everyone to get their hair cut. And so you'll see it up there. So if you don't see any pictures of your cadet, then you just have to ask yourself, you shouldn't have to ask yourself, did they not cut their hair? Because they can't stay in encampment if they didn't. But it would have to be something pretty detrimental to the Air Force uniform that they would not get posted. But you should see a picture of every single cadet throughout the week. And we are then also going to do a blog, and we're going to update the blog every single day on our website. And then we're going to send out a newsletter every single day at the end of the day as well, so that we can announce who are the of the day winners. And so between all of those different ways, the newsletter, your squadron commanders will have to forward to you. But through all of that, you should see everything. Make sure you follow our stories on Instagram, because we're going to post a lot of the cool stuff. So Most likely you're going to see all of this on Instagram and Facebook before you see it anywhere else. And then at the end of the week, if we can play the graduation video, we will have a 3 to 4-ish minute video of all of the best photos and videos from the whole week. So you can just see a whole timeline of everything that your cadet got to do while they were there. But no, I don't anticipate making phone calls to parents telling them your cadet's going to fly to C-17. That would take a lot of time. Do the cadets need a physical before they arrive?
No, they won't need a physical.
No
No,
doctor. You don't have to take them to the doctor.
No, none of that. No, I appreciate that. No, but I'm very proactive, right? Unless you think they need a physical. I do want to, and I think that maybe Colonel Peace address these items, but I just want to reinforce them, I suppose. The pack list is, and comes from Tech Sergeant Vermette. You guys will hopefully get a chance to meet him. He's dynamo. He's really doing a lot of good work for us. The pack list is on registration zone with the diagram on the second page. I believe that was addressed already. And the form for medication is a CAP form 160, but it needs to be in the right pocket, and of course printed upon arrival. So the cadet needs to have that on their person as well, which makes a lot of sense to me. So hey, thank you, Sergeant Vermette. That nailed it. Okay, next, ma'am.
All right, when they come to encampment on day 1, should they arrive wearing their ABUs?
Yes, they should be wearing their ABUs. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to correct this next question. It said how many OCPs, but a reminder, we don't wear OCPs in CAP yet, so they need to be ABUs. But how many ABUs/working uniforms do the cadets need?
I believe that we've only identified on the packing list 2. One that they're going to be wearing and one that they're going to be carrying with them. Now, yeah, granted, in a perfect world, it'd be great if they had 4. That's a financial strain that we don't want to put on the family. Just so you're aware, most activities we're doing, with the exception of one, is their uniforms are going to stay relatively clean. I.e., when they do physical fitness training, they're changing into shorts and t-shirts, right? But one day they're doing an obstacle course and/or / leaders reactionary course. The uniform will get dirty then. It's towards the end of the week, and with the change of uniforms, we should get by. Now remember, if it's too hot out there for Jackson, we might end up wearing the physical fitness training uniform most of the time, because guess what? T-shirts and shorts and sneakers are a lot cooler than combat boots and fatigues. Okay, duh. So we may end up doing that if we're looking at weather conditions that are in the high 90s, or what we like to call black flag conditions. So we're setting it up so they can get by with 2 uniforms. However, if the cadet wants to bring a 3rd uniform, nobody's going to say that was a bad idea either. But don't go out of your way and buy a 3rd uniform, please. Yeah. Clear as mud?
Very much so.
Okay.
So then Jesse was just saying, can you give an answer regarding bringing money for snacks? And I think you said we're gonna verify and send that out in the newsletter.
Yes.
And the website.
Yes.
In case anybody's wondering, right? The website's like your go-to place. If you haven't been there yet, I will put the link on here. But the South Carolina Wing website is going to be where you want to look for anything regarding encampment. So there's going to be your like initial main encampment page, and then there are sub pages from there. That's where we had cadet applications, staff applications, adult member applications. There's a whole section about the policies. As a parent, I think it's a really good idea to look at the policies. What kind of infractions can get a cadet sent home? Those all come from headquarters. So that's a good thing for you and your cadet to look at together. It's something to say, hey, you're like my cadet. I might look at him and say, you're an absolute angel and I completely trust you. And you have never once in your life as a teenage boy made me want to lose my mind. But let's read through the policies together. And let me tell you that what you might think is funny as a 17-year-old boy hanging out with your friends is not very funny in the eyes of Civil Air Patrol. And these infractions will get you kicked out and sent home, right? So those are things. But then also the policy says, how are we going to keep your cadet safe, especially during things like weather? So it's an important page to look at. And then I think parents' favorite part throughout the week, there's the update page. That's where all the blogs, links to the photos. So you're not going to see this year 500 photos on Facebook. You're going to see 3 to 5 photos on Facebook with a link to the main photography page that is owned by Civil Air Patrol. So it's going to be a little bit different, but if you go to the website, you'll be able to find everything. Colonel Peterson and Lieutenant Atherton were just confirming that some medications will be kept on the cadet in their pocket or their backpack. And then Heather said, what's the Facebook page again? The best way to find it now is to first put in Civil Air Patrol, South Carolina Wing. So we recently changed the names of all of these Civil Air Patrol pages. So it starts with Civil Air Patrol. And if you go look for South Carolina Wing, it takes a second longer to find. So I would try that. Are smart devices allowed, such as a fitness watch?
I mean, I don't see a downside. I mean, I have a Garmin, right? I mean, I don't see a downside to know your steps that day. However, if you have like a Garmin, I know that I have to link it to my phone to get the data from it. So if they have a fitness watch and they need to link it to their phone, then we're not gonna be able to download it till probably the point in which they get their phone issued back to them after graduation.
Yeah, I think if it's going to be like an Apple Watch, then that's going to kind of violate the social media phone policy, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
old,
there's that.
right?
No,
So
but the Garmin
yes,
doesn't, right? So the
yeah.
Garmin is
You mean
not an
those?
Apple Watch.
You mean those Dick Tracy watch things? Yeah. No, yeah, Garmin doesn't do that, but yeah, you're right. I mean, Apple, yeah, Apple's just as equal to having a cell phone on you. We
Yeah.
can't go that way.
Now, I would say, and this is a conversation to have with your cadet's chain of command and the health officer, if somebody needs a smartwatch, because it is monitoring blood pressure, heart rate, some kind of medical condition, right? That's a separate conversation, I would think.
You know, that's a point, ma'am, too. I realize that certain people with diabetes, that their cell phones can help monitor. That's a conversation we're going to probably have offline, parents, and hopefully we come back to you with a really good answer. Your child's safety is obviously of the utmost to us. We're just also trying to find by the same way to not create an environment where we can ensure that everybody has or is operating at the same standard. So we'll find the sweet spot with that.
And then we've got one more question and one more clarification, and then I will also put the encampment email here in the messages in case anybody has more questions. But a clarification from Colonel Peterson is just, the expensive watches sometimes get lost, or unfortunately, we hope never happens. It tends to walk off and disappear and go home with someone else. So while we don't want that to happen, please don't bring anything expensive. A Nintendo Switch is going to get confiscated, but we don't really want to be responsible for that, right? So prefer they just don't come with that kind of stuff. So those are just things to think about there. And then we cadets don't want to get too distracted about what time it is. We promise we'll get them to where they need to be. We'll make sure they eat 3 healthy meals a day. So they don't need to be too stressed. Okay, then another point of clarification is that the CAP F161 is emergency information. That and the CAP ID are stored in the left pocket, not the right pocket. The packing list is in registration zone, and I think it's the 160 that has the medication on it. I don't remember. It's all going to be in registration zone. Last question, and then we can go into closing comments. Can squadron units split payments for encampment to help cadets who did not receive SEEP assistance but need financial assistance to pay for encampment?
I assume yes. That's more of a squadron issue. We can put some directives out to give some advice and assistance on that. But yeah, that's kind of at the squadron level. Yeah, I want to say yes, but I don't know the actual factors on that. Maybe Colonel Peterson or somebody else, when they get back online, they can actually help us with that question if there's an answer. Is that the last one, ma'am, or?
That was the last one, and we are at 3 o'clock.
Excellent. We were doing a great job here. Thank you for posting that link. Hey, ma'am, thanks for stepping up and everything. I appreciate your us facilitating this together. I've spoke a lot, so I'm going to allow Colonel Peterson to come up with any other remarks. But before I get to him, uh, First Lieutenant Atherton is the Commandant of Cadets. I don't want to put her on the spot. Ma'am, do you have anything for this meeting?
I don't, sir. I'm looking forward to encampment, and the cadets, by the end of it, most certainly are going to be wanting to come back. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, First Lieutenant Atherton spends her whole summers going from one encampment to the other, Florida, Alabama. So she knows how she knows how it's done. We have picked the right person to be the commandant of cadets right there, and you obviously know your PAO, which is Colonel Peace. You know, top-notch people. We're going to basically make sure you guys get good visibility of what's going on with your cadet. And as a parent, I can appreciate that as well. So, Colonel Peterson, do you have anything for us, sir?
I did miss that last question that you were going to refer to me. Was that the split payment?
Yeah, I'm not smart on any of that payment stuff, sir.
Yeah, we can look into it. I would imagine that's an opportunity, or if the squadron wants to cover the payment and allow a single payment and allow a double, return of payment, that would be the easiest way. But we'll look and see. I think Mr. Colonel Stanley asked that question, so we should be able to get an answer back to you pretty quick. I don't have anything else. I appreciate all the time and effort you put into this, Senior Jackson. It's
Thanks, sir.
you spoke pretty much nonstop for an hour, and just goes to show the effort and the level of effort that you keep giving to this program. So thank you for all that. Everybody else, hopefully got your questions answered. You've got the chat. If not, fire away, and continue to watch the website. And we look forward to having you and or your children here later this summer. So thanks for your time and have a good rest of the day. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thanks for all showing up. Have a good night.